received a mysterious package containing a bottle of perfume called Kiss, and a note. The note read, "Spray on this perfume, and anyone who likes you will have their desire to kiss you increased by 100%. I thought the note was just marketing fluff, but little did I know that every word of this advertising slogan would turn out to be true. I took a photo of the perfume and posted it on Instagram with the caption, "Which sweetheart secretly prepared this early birthday gift? Come claim it." The perfume was transparent, and the bottle had no design except for the name Kiss. Exceptionally minimalist. I sprayed it twice on my wrist and sniffed. There's no scent. Did I not use enough? I sprayed several times on both wrists, but still couldn't smell anything. Maybe it was just regular water? A prank. Jessie, hurry up. Satan's class is next. My roommate barely finished her sentence before rushing out the door. I panicked, grabbed a textbook, and sprinted toward the classroom. In the end, I nervously sat alone in the back row. My roommate, seated several rows away, gave me a good luck look. It wasn't that we loved studying enough to fight for front seats. Satan just preferred calling on students in the back rows to answer questions. Satan was our nickname for our calculus professor, Shane, who had an exceptionally handsome but cold face. As famous as his ascetic appearance were his strict class discipline and the extremely high failure rate on final exams. Extra credit? Non-existent. Just as the bell was about to ring, Shane entered the classroom right on time, surveyed the room, and his gaze met mine. I quickly lowered my head, trying to minimize my presence. Today we'll finish covering calculus, spend the remaining time on unit tests, and leave the last section for questions. Shane methodically began his lecture. It was then that I realized in despair that I'd grabbed the wrong textbook. Remembering Shane's cold face and sharp tongue the last time someone brought the wrong book, I shuddered, wishing I could turn invisible. "All right, use the remaining time to work on the exercises," he said. I pretended to select a page of problems and started calculating, praying he wouldn't come down from the podium. My prayers went unanswered as Shane left the podium and began to walk around. I'm not sure how much time passed before I heard unhurried footsteps approaching from behind. My heart skipped a beat, and my palms began to sweat. The footsteps seemed just one step away from me. Looks like I'd have to use that trick. I pretended to accidentally drop my pen and bent down to pick it up, planning to stay down until he passed. But unexpectedly, a hand reached for the pen faster than mine, and my hand landed on the back of his. I instinctively turned my head, and suddenly my chin was caught by a hand. Before I could react, I felt something warm and soft against my lips. My eyes widened as I met desire-filled eyes just inches from mine. His tongue parted my teeth, invading deeply, continuously intertwining and stealing all my breath. I felt like I'd entered a tipsy state, confused and dazed. The deep kiss didn't last long. Shane brushed his fingers across my moist lips twice, his gaze enigmatic. Then he placed the pen in my palm and slowly stood up. "Be careful," he warned in his usual cold voice, though with a barely noticeable huskiness. "Thank you, Professor." I carefully looked around, but fortunately, everyone seemed focused on their work, not noticing the shocking scene in the back row. For the rest of the class, Shane, breaking with tradition, didn't call on anyone in the back rows to answer questions. I had escaped a crisis, but my pounding heart wouldn't calm down. My mind kept flashing back to Shane kissing me behind the desk. Why did he suddenly kiss me, and with tongue? When the bell rang, I bolted, feeling an intense gaze on my back until I disappeared around the corner. I didn't know if I was going crazy, or if the world was. Ouch! Lost in thought. My nose collided with something hard, making my eyes water. That's what happens when you don't watch where you're going. An all too familiar casual tone sounded from above me. The newcomer gently rubbed my nose. "Jody." I blinked away tears and recognized who stood before me. Flashy red-dyed hair and tan skin. Such distinctive features could only belong to my childhood friend. He raised an eyebrow. "Why such a rush? Someone chasing you?" "No." My eyes shifted slightly. "Don't you have no more classes today? Come on, head to the basketball court and be my personal cheerleader." Jody casually put his arm around my shoulder and dragged me to the gym without giving me a choice. I was forced to sit in the front row, and Jody smoothly took off his jacket and accurately draped it over my head. "Take care of it." I felt large hands patting my head through the jacket. Pulling down the jacket, I sensed piercing stares on my back. No doubt they were all Jody's fangirls. As soon as the whistle blew, those gazes finally shifted away from me, and I sighed in relief. Watching Jody on the court, agile, focused, dribbling past opponents with ease, I had to admit he had qualities worthy of admiration. In the end, Jody's team won by a large margin as expected. I went forward to hand him water. He tilted his head back, his Adam's apple bobbing as fine beads of sweat slid down his throat. In an instant he finished the entire bottle. He looked at me with a mischievous smile. "Am I awesome or what?" "You're okay," I replied expressionlessly. After 15 years of teasing each other, compliments were impossible. "Your mouth is the only stubborn part of you." I snorted. "Come on, wait for me outside the locker room. I'll take a quick 5-minute shower, then we'll go get food." For the sake of food, I obediently waited outside the locker room. But 10 minutes passed. Everyone had left, and Jody still hadn't come out. "Jody, are you done?" I knocked on the locker room door. The moment the door opened, I was pulled inside, and the door quickly closed behind me. I was pressed against the door, my wrists pinned above my head with one hand, while his other arm braced against the wall beside my ear. My nose was filled with a faint scent of mint. "Jody." The locker room was dim, but I knew the person pressing against me was him. "What kind of prank are you playing now?" He always liked to tease me. Jody was uncharacteristically silent for a moment, and the atmosphere began to feel strange. "I noticed when we first met, your lips are a bit swollen. Did someone kiss you?" His tone was odd. I began to panic. "Was it that obvious?" "No, my lips are just a bit chapped," I answered, trying to appear calm. "Is that so?" Jody asked with an ambiguous tone. "Of course. You know I don't have a boyfriend." I felt him lean closer, his breath falling on my neck as he sniffed lightly. "You smell so good." "Good." I couldn't smell anything at all. Suddenly my lower lip was sucked, creating a slight tingling sensation, and my mind went blank. His wet, soft tongue caught mine, leading it in a passionate tango, entangling and separating. Only when I started making muffled sounds from lack of air, did Jody finally show mercy. "This is insane. Truly insane." I stomped hard on his foot, and while he was in pain, I pushed him away forcefully and ran out of the locker room without looking back. Afraid Jody would corner me, I decided to take a cab away from campus and go to my rented apartment. I walked into the elevator, my mind a complete mess. Could it be that perfume? Wait! A pale, clean hand stopped the elevator doors just as they were about to close. The doors opened again, and my eyes met those of the newcomer. "Jesse, you're done with classes so early today?" It was my neighbor Fawn. He was an up-and-coming fashion designer who had studied abroad and loved using me as a model for inspiration. "Yeah, I only had one class today," I smiled at him. "One day apart, and Jesse seems to have gotten even prettier." He winked with those flirtatious, charming eyes of his, teasing me as usual. "Not as pretty as you." Fawn's features were exceptionally delicate, with slightly long hair. He truly deserved to be called pretty. He affectionately took my hand. "The dress from last time is finished. I can't wait for you to try it on, my muse." Conveniently, the elevator reached the 7th floor, and he led me directly into his apartment. He pulled a dress from his studio and handed it to me, then pushed me into the bathroom to change. Changing was fine, but, "Why are you following me in?" I glared at Fawn. He looked innocent. "This dress is a bit difficult to put on. The zipper's in the back, so I'm here to help." "Not necessary. Get out." I unceremoniously kicked him out of the bathroom. Later, I discovered Fawn was right. The dress really was difficult to wear. I could only pull the zipper up to the middle of my back, and my hair got caught in it. I walked out holding the neckline of the dress, both embarrassed and annoyed. "This dress is impractical." He smiled knowingly and approached me. "It's okay, I'll help." He moved behind me and gently began freeing my trapped hair, strand by strand. His fingers inevitably touched my back, making me shiver involuntarily. A low chuckle came from behind. "Jesse is so sensitive. Stop talking nonsense and just zip it up." "Patience, almost there." His voice deepened slightly. I don't know how much time passed before my hair was finally freed, but Fawn still didn't move. Just as I was about to ask what was wrong, I felt a warm, moist kiss on my exposed back. I froze. "You smell so good." After that comment, he pulled the zipper up. Fawn turned me around to face him, his eyes full of undisguised admiration and fascination. As expected of my muse, "You're stunning." He praised me in a reverent tone. The next second his smile faded, and his eyes fixated on my lips. "If only you could forever be my muse alone," Fawn said, enunciating each word, his aura turning somewhat dangerous. "Fawn." My voice trembled. His smile returned, the intimidating presence disappearing so quickly I thought I might have imagined it. "Jessie, are your lips swollen because they're chapped?" "Ah, yes." I nodded stiffly. "For a moment I thought someone had kissed you. I was worried someone might secretly steal my muse away." "Huh, how could that happen? Why don't?" Fawn suddenly changed course. "You become my girlfriend?" That was so sudden. My eyes widened slightly. "What? That way you could move in with me, and I'd have an endless source of inspiration." He looked into my eyes with a smile on his lips but seriousness in his voice. It's okay. Jessie can take a few days to think about it." By the time I returned to my own apartment, I was still in a daze. This was too strange. Shane, Jody, and now Fawn. All of them were acting weird. I fell back onto my bed, staring at the ceiling blankly. The words from the perfume card flashed in my mind. "Spray on this perfume, and anyone who likes you will have their desire to kiss you increased by 100%. Could that random perfume actually be real? Are there really such magical things in this world? No, I must be going crazy. Rather than assume all 3 men liked me, I preferred to think I was just being paranoid. I opened my phone to check the Instagram post about the perfume, wondering if anyone had claimed it. The comments section was filled with denials. Several of my close friends also said they weren't the ones who sent it. I felt lost. Ding! Suddenly, a friend request notification popped up. I checked it. The verification message boldly stated, "Planning to kiss and run?" Instinct told me it was Shane. Startled, my hand trembled as I accepted the request. He sent a few more messages. "You ran away pretty fast. Not planning to take responsibility?" It was hard to imagine these words coming from the typically cold and reserved Shane. With shaking hands, I replied, "You kissed me. Shouldn't you be the one taking responsibility?" He seemed to have been waiting for this response. "I'll take responsibility. So, can I understand that you agree to be my girlfriend?" What? I was so shocked I nearly threw my phone. Was I seeing things or had Shane gone mad? Adding to my troubles, Jody's messages popped up at the top of my screen. "Jerk. Why are you running? I won't eat you. Jerk. You went back to your apartment? Jerk. I'll come pick you up. Let's grab dinner. I have something to tell you." Before I could send my not going reply, he sent another message. "Jerk. If you dare refuse, I'll kiss you until you cry. Jerk. I'll be there soon. Be good and wait for me." I put down my phone, my expression blank. First Fawn's sudden confession, then Shane wanting to take responsibility, and now Jody having something to tell me. I had a feeling that what he wanted to say would lead to the same destination as the other two. Why did it feel like I had suddenly transformed into everyone's crush? The professor was out of the question. I didn't want to be reminded of terrifying math problems every time I saw my boyfriend. But if the perfume really worked, it meant he actually liked me, which was hard to believe. Even if he liked me, it didn't mean he'd give me better grades. As for Jody, my heart tightened, but I quickly dismissed the thought. I really didn't want to see him. If he said something that crossed boundaries, I might lose a friend who could have been a lifelong companion. I didn't want that. So I chose to be a coward and planned to leave my apartment before he arrived. Unexpectedly, just as I opened my door, I heard the sound of another door opening next door. There was Fawn stepping out of his apartment, dressed in a stylish black suit with 2 buttons undone, formal yet with a touch of casual ease. What a coincidence. Is Jessie going out too? He saw me, his eyes rippling with delight. I was stunned by Fawn's rare formal attire and belatedly nodded. Yes, Fawn looks like he's going to an event, wearing a suit and all. He was non-committal, then suddenly narrowed his eyes and asked, "Do you have something urgent to attend to?" "No, just going for a walk," I answered after a brief pause. Fawn's eyes curved into a smile. "That's perfect. I'm sure to model for my show. Jessie, help me out." "No." Before I could refuse, he grabbed my wrist and pulled me into the elevator. During the ride, no matter how I tried to excuse myself, saying I had no experience, my figure wasn't good enough, I couldn't showcase his designs properly. Fawn maintained his perfect smile and shut down my arguments with, "No one can display my work better than my muse. Never question a designer's aesthetic judgment." I was left speechless. Ding! The elevator reached the first floor. Fawn held my wrist as we exited. Just as we turned, I saw a familiar tall, slim figure walking quickly toward the elevator area, head down looking at his phone. Jody got here so fast. My heart nearly stopped in fear. Damn Murphy's Law. Whatever you don't want to happen will happen. Wanting to go back to the elevator, I saw the floor numbers still climbing. There was no way I'd make it in time. And there was nothing around except walls to hide behind. What do I do? What do I do? I was so nervous I was practically spinning in circles. Fawn tilted his head and looked at me with confusion. What's wrong, Jessie? Seeing Jody getting closer, possibly about to look up, I panicked and buried my face in Fawn's chest. Holding his waist and turning us around, I pressed my back against the wall, letting Fawn shield my face. A soft laugh came from above me. So forward. A pair of hands gently stroked my hair as Fawn whispered, "This isn't a good way to hide from someone. Let me help you." He pulled back slightly, his right hand braced against the wall blocking most of my face, while his left hand lifted my chin. He leaned down, moving closer to me. I felt waves of shock and froze in place. If I struggled, Jody would notice us, but if I didn't, Fawn would kiss me. To my surprise, he placed his thumb on my lips, only pretending to kiss me by actually kissing his own finger. "You hasn't agreed to be my girlfriend yet. I won't cross that line so easily," Fawn said softly, his alluring almond eyes showing both mischief and sincerity. The usually playful Fawn, who always teased me, was unexpectedly respectful in this moment. I met his gaze and nearly melted under the intensity of emotion I found there. "Close your eyes. He's coming." Jody's footsteps grew closer. As he passed by us, I instinctively pressed myself tighter against Fawn, holding my breath as I heard Jody's footsteps pause briefly. Ding! Just then, someone from upstairs called the elevator to the first floor. Without further hesitation, Jody quickly stepped into the elevator. I let out a sigh of relief. After a few minutes, Fawn still hadn't let me go. I poked his waist. "Fawn, he's gone. You can let me go now." Fawn hugged me tightly one more time and sighed dramatically, using me and tossing me aside. He made me sound like some kind of player. I opened my mouth to explain, but then heard him say, "But I'm willing to endure it gladly." Come on, the show's about to start. Attending a fashion show for the first time, and seeing even the audience dressed so uniquely, my fashion intimidation syndrome was kicking in. Fawn led me backstage to the model's makeup room. Looking around, I saw it filled with gorgeous women, all over 5 feet 9 inches with impossibly long legs that seemed to barely fit in the space as they sat for makeup. Almost the instant Fawn walked in, all the model's attention turned to him. "Emily, this is the model who'll be closing the show with me. Give her suitable makeup," Fawn said to a green-haired, good-looking man. Emily winked at me exaggeratedly. "Oh, so this is her. Come here, honey. I promise to make you the sensation of the night," he beckoned, indicating I should sit down. "Don't call her honey," Fawn said with half-lidded eyes. Despite his gentle tone and smile, there was something chilling about him. Emily surrendered with raised hands. "I wouldn't dare. Don't just stand there. The organizers were looking for you. Go on now." Fawn winked at me. "Don't be nervous. I'll be back soon." I nodded stiffly, feeling several piercing gazes drilling into my back. "Chin up, hon. Let me see what makeup suits you," Emily said, examining my face. I obediently complied, letting him work on my face. After what seemed like forever, Emily finally put down his makeup brush and looked me up and down admiringly. Beautiful, truly worthy of being Fawn's muse. Looking at myself in the mirror, I saw that the makeup wasn't heavy, just slight enhancements to my features, yet I looked noticeably more refined. Like an upgraded version of myself, I thought. Just then, someone called Emily away for help, leaving me sitting alone with nothing to do. I didn't know any of the other models in the makeup room, but I could sense their hostility because of Fawn. Not wanting to cause trouble, I lowered my head and played with my phone to minimize my presence. "Hey, what gives you the right to close the show with Fawn?" Some unknown amateur model taking what should have been my spot. An aggressive female voice came from beside me. I looked up to see a young model with an unfriendly expression standing next to me. Her sharp features made her look particularly harsh. From what she was saying, I had taken her place. "I think you're mistaken. Fawn said they needed another model and asked me to help. If this was originally your spot, you can ask him directly when he returns," I explained gently, not bothering to address the amateur model comment. The model furrowed her brows, her tone becoming even more hostile. Are you bragging about how close you are to Fawn? Did you sleep with him? I frowned deeply, completely unable to understand her bizarre logic. Only someone with a dirty mind would make such baseless assumptions about others. Fawn and I are just friends. You didn't dare ask Fawn directly why you're closing instead of me while he was here. You wait until no one's around to come intimidate me? You think I'm easy to push around? I sat in my chair with arms crossed, looking her up and down before letting out a cold laugh. This combination of expression and gesture was devastatingly effective. The model was indeed humiliated and enraged. She actually tried to get physical with me in front of everyone. Her arm had barely risen when someone from behind grabbed her wrist with unmerciful strength, causing her to cry out in pain. My eyes widened slightly. Fawn. The model's previously superior expression completely vanished, replaced by deep fear. Fawn, who usually wore a smile, had completely dropped his friendly demeanor. His intimidating aura was chilling. Even without Jessie, you wouldn't be closing the show. Before daydreaming, ask yourself if you're worthy, he said, enunciating each word. You're fired. Get out. Fawn released the model's arm, and had people escort her out before she could protest. He lowered his eyes and meticulously wiped his fingers with a handkerchief before disgustedly throwing it into the trash. When he turned to look at me, he had returned to his usual self, smiling at the corners of his mouth, not quite serious. Jessie, you never cease to surprise me, standing your ground even when targeted. I tilted my head and smiled. Well, I was in the right. Fawn froze for a moment before bowing his head and laughing. I regret it now. Regret what? Bringing my muse into the spotlight. Everyone's eyes will linger on you, and I'll be jealous. He looked into my eyes, his gaze filled with intoxicating tenderness. Fawn led me onto the T-stage as camera shutters clicked continuously. The lights were dazzling. I should have been nervous, but the composed person beside me gave me endless courage and a sense of security. Before we walked out, he told me, "You're not a model, you're my muse. Just standing there is enough." Fawn and I walked to the center of the runway, where he stopped. I glanced at him in surprise. This is my first show since returning to the country. From your expressions, I can see it's been a success, Fawn said confidently. Many friends called me William James Cedes, someone who dazzled briefly 3 years ago before disappearing abroad, with no further noteworthy work. Now I'm back with my muse. He turned his head slightly, looking at me with gentle affection. Without her, this show wouldn't exist. When my inspiration was at its driest, she appeared like a beam of light illuminating my world, becoming the soul of my work, my wellspring of inspiration. Thank you to my muse. The audience erupted in applause, but in my eyes, there was only Fawn's captivating gaze. Oh no, I think I'm falling for him. After the show, Fawn very gentlemanly escorted me to my doorstep. Finally having a moment to relax, I had to face the chat notifications blowing up my phone. Wolf, why aren't you responding? Are you okay? I'm coming to find you. Before I could figure out how to reply, there was a rhythmic knock at the door. That was fast. I was surprised. Opening the door, I found Fawn standing there, the one I'd just said goodbye to minutes ago, with that beautiful face wearing a smile. Fawn, I gave him a confused look. Did I leave something behind? He raised an eyebrow and smiled. No, I just wanted to ask if you've decided about being my girlfriend. Ah, didn't you say you'd give me a few days to think about it? My eyes widened. I changed my mind. You. Sorry, but she already has a boyfriend. A large hand suddenly pulled me into an embrace. I instinctively pushed against the firm chest, looking up to meet Jody's handsome face with its ambiguous smile. He looked at Fawn like a wolf guarding its territory against an intruder. Strange, my heart was racing. Fawn maintained his smiling demeanor and dropped a bombshell. Jessie wouldn't mind having another boyfriend, would she? My pupils experienced a level 10 earthquake. No. No, you don't mind? The soft flesh at my waist was pinched threateningly, and I hurriedly answered. No need. One is enough. More than enough. Fawn looked disappointed, his gaze moving between Jody and me. If you change your mind, look me up. My muse is always welcome. Don't get your hopes up, Jody said with a cold laugh, pulling me into the apartment and slamming the door shut. A chill ran down my spine as I tried to break free from his grip, only to be held tighter. Who is he? Not only is he so familiar with you, but he's also shameless enough to want to be the third wheel. He looked down at me, his tone almost grinding through his teeth. What third wheel? Fawn just likes to joke around, don't take it seriously. I laughed nervously. Besides, I'm not really your girlfriend anyway. Unexpectedly, this statement hit a nerve. Jody's expression darkened. He leaned in closer. Fawn, huh? You sound so sweet saying his name. Why are you always so fierce with me? Looks like I showed up at an inconvenient time, blocking your potential romance. Or would you rather be the girlfriend of the guy who kissed your lips until they were swollen? As Jody moved closer, his mint scent enveloped me. My heart raced, and my eyelashes trembled uncontrollably. He clearly hadn't believed my fever excuse, but I had a feeling that if I admitted the truth, it would only make my childhood friend angrier. So I gritted my teeth and denied it. No one kissed me, only you. Remarkably, this statement softened his expression, and the intimidating aura around him diminished. Really? I quickly nodded. I forcefully suppressed the guilt rising within me for lying. Jody finally smiled. Striking while the iron was hot, I suggested. Can you let me go now? You're holding me too tight. No, he refused flatly. Then he lowered his head, took a deep breath at the side of my neck, and sighed. You smell so good today. I really want to kiss you. I leaned my head back, trying to create distance between us. The way Jody looked at me was so intense, especially when he stared at my lips, making my heart race while filling me with a sense of danger. Didn't you message me saying you'd pick me up for dinner? That you had something to tell me? Let's go. I patted his abs. Realizing I touched him inappropriately in my panic, I quickly withdrew my hand as if electrocuted. He raised an eyebrow, smiling suggestively. Oh, your hand seems to be telling me it doesn't want to go out. Ahem. My hand has its own ideas. I quickly changed the subject. I'm hungry, let's go. Jody didn't resist anymore, and allowed me to push him out the door. I hadn't expected Jody to take me to the small restaurant we used to frequent in high school. Both our high school and university were local, but this place was still quite a distance from my apartment. I hadn't been here in years, but he seemed to still be a regular. The same kind restaurant owner greeted him warmly when she saw him, and Jody smiled and nodded. The owner then shifted her gaze to me, giving him a knowing look. Finally together with this young lady? My face turned bright red after hearing that. What's this about? Making it sound like Jody had been pining for me for ages, and even telling the restaurant owner about it. Jody smiled without answering, only saying, 2 seafood curry rice bowls, 1 without peas. Coming right up. Feel free to sit anywhere. The owner replied cheerfully before heading to the kitchen. Jody took my hand and led me to a window seat, coincidentally the same spot we used to sit in during high school. Memories flooded back. In high school, Jody and I weren't in the same class. I was upstairs, and he was downstairs. The school cafeteria served terrible food, and I often complained to him that I couldn't stomach it. Then, during every lunch break, he would wait for me at the bottom of the stairs and sneak me out by helping me climb over the wall to this little restaurant in the food alley behind the school. Though small, the place had a nice ambience, and the owner was friendly with exceptional cooking skills. The first time we came, I took a sip of the soup and my eyes lit up immediately. This tastes amazing. Jody rested his chin on his hand, lazily watching me, warmth filling his eyes. Of course, my taste has always been excellent. If you like it, I'll bring you here every evening. But climbing over the wall is really scary. I hesitated. He tapped my head, his handsome features full of youthful confidence. What are you afraid of? Even though you're really heavy, my muscles aren't just for show. Just jump without worry. I'll definitely catch you. I covered my head and waved my fist at him. I'm not heavy. If you can't even catch me, what kind of school tyrant are you? What school tyrant? I always convince people with reason. Then who was it that got called to the principal's office last week for fighting? I snorted. Jody's expression changed slightly, his ears turning mysteriously red. He lowered his head, coughed twice, and muttered. That was only because some people were eyeing someone they shouldn't. I haven't even taken advantage of being close to you yet. What are you mumbling about? I looked at him curiously. Stop looking at me. Even good food can't shut you up. Hurry and eat. Jody kept his word. Every day he would help me sneak out over the wall to eat, and each time he caught me steadily, giving me a strong sense of security. It felt like as long as he was standing below, even if it was a 1,000-foot drop, I could jump without hesitation, because I trusted that he would definitely catch me and protect me from getting hurt. Over the years, I had grown accustomed to having him by my side. Enjoy your meal. The owner soon brought 2 fragrant bowls of curry rice. Thank you. I smiled in gratitude. My plate had no peas, which I hated, and I suddenly realized that perhaps no one knew my likes and dislikes better than Jody. Eat up. See if it tastes the same as it did in high school. Jody smiled at me. This scene overlapped with memories of his teenage self, making my heart skip a beat. I uncomfortably averted my gaze and instinctively searched for a topic. The owner seems very familiar with you. Did you come here often after high school too? Yeah, on weekends. This is so far from campus though. You came all this way just for food. It's not just for the food. This place has special meaning to me, Jody said, his smile fading as he looked at me intently. I hesitated, seemingly anticipating what he was about to say. Actually, I confessed to you at the graduation dance, he said softly. How did I not? Wait. I did remember receiving Jody's call that night. His surroundings were noisy, but his words came through the phone clearly. Jessica, I like you. He said it slowly, one word at a time. At that moment, I was shocked but also secretly pleased in a way I couldn't quite explain. But then I heard his friends talking in the background, seemingly encouraging someone. Don't cheat. How can you back out of truth or dare? Yeah, Jody made the call, you can't chicken out either. Oh, so it was just because he lost a game. The disappointment I felt was hidden by my strong sense of pride. Pretending to be calm, I said, Hey, you're such a coward. You lost a dare, and only had the guts to call me? Why not try the cheerleading captain? If it works out, you'd be winning big. There was silence on the other end for a few seconds before he laughed and replied casually, You've enlightened me. I'll definitely try next time. Okay, hanging up now. He responded, his tone dropping. Actually, after hanging up, I really wanted to cry. But feeling that would be too embarrassing, I buried myself in playing games with my best friend to distract myself. Thinking back now, was Jody's confession not because he lost at truth or dare? I looked up in surprise, choosing my words carefully. Weren't you confessing to me then because you lost at truth or dare? I actually lost on purpose, he answered, lowering his eyes. Jody's fingers tapped slowly on the table, which I knew was a sign of his nervousness. Looking back, I was too much of a coward to tell you directly. I was afraid of being rejected. I'm still afraid now. He suddenly raised his eyes to meet mine, but his gaze was full of honesty and determination. What do you mean? My heart was in suspense, and I unconsciously clenched my fists. He kept looking at me, speaking slowly. The reason this restaurant is so meaningful to me is because after being indirectly rejected by you, I almost gave up. When I was troubled, I unconsciously wandered to this restaurant. The owner saw how dejected I looked and asked what happened. I wanted someone to talk to, so I told her everything. She told me that if you like someone, you should persevere, be sincere, and say what you want to say directly, without beating around the bush. Jody paused. All these years, I've been looking for a chance to confess to you, but there were just too many people around you. I was afraid you'd fall for someone else, afraid you'd reject me, and then I wouldn't even be able to stand by your side as a friend. I frowned. I don't have that many people around me. It's you who has fans everywhere, both guys and girls. Every time I go watch you play basketball, I nearly get killed by their stares. Hey, you can't be that oblivious. Don't you realize those guys were interested in you? No way. Jody laughed, shaking his head. No wonder you never noticed I liked you all these years. So you also didn't know that every time I asked you to grab my clothes or pass me water, I was doing it on purpose. I thought you were trying to exploit me and using me as a shield. I belatedly blushed, my voice getting smaller and smaller. He let out a long sigh, putting away his usual casual expression and looking very serious. Then let me be honest and straightforward just once. Jody took a deep breath. Jessica, I've liked you for a long time. Will you be my girlfriend? I didn't dare meet his eyes, which were as bright as stars. I lowered my head in embarrassment as a blush crept up my neck and spread to my face, burning hot. But I once had feelings for him beyond just being besties. But after that night, I completely erased that thought. After all, if he liked me too, how could he have made that kind of joke? So, now that I'd gotten used to his friendship, This belated confession felt sudden. Suddenly, I remembered Fawn's passionate gaze. Jody wasn't my only option. After hesitating for a moment, I still felt that my current confused state wasn't suitable for making decisions. I need some time to think about it. His eyes instantly cooled, showing disappointment and hurt, kind of like a wet puppy. I sighed, trying to comfort him with a smile. Let me cool off for a few days, and we'll meet again soon. I'll give you my answer then. He didn't speak for a long time, and honestly, I was a bit afraid Jody would get angry. But in the end he calmly replied, Okay, this Sunday, is that all right? I let out a long sigh. Okay. My phone suddenly rang, startling me so much I almost dropped it. It was Fawn. Jody gave me a keen look, and I strangely felt guilty as I hung up the call. It's my roommate, probably wanting to discuss our group assignment. A message immediately popped up on my screen. ? What's wrong? I'm at your door. I hurriedly replied that I was out and would be back in a while. Fortunately, Jody was also distracted after my non-answer and didn't pressure me further. When I got home, I saw Fawn still standing at the door. When he saw me approaching, that beautiful face of his broke into a smile. Fawn. I gave him a confused look. Did I forget something? He raised an eyebrow and smiled. No, I just wanted to ask if you've decided about being my girlfriend. What? Didn't you say you'd give me a few days to think about it? My eyes widened. I changed my mind. Fawn tilted his head and winked at me. How strange. I somehow felt like I'd seen this scene before. Apparently amused by my utterly surprised and slightly exasperated expression, Fawn couldn't stop grinning. Just kidding, Jessie, don't be nervous. His eyes sparkled with laughter. I was going to text you, but I thought that wouldn't be formal enough, so I wanted to invite you in person. My heart mysteriously began to race, and I felt enveloped by some sense of destiny. Let's go on a date this Sunday, and you can give me your answer then, how about that? After what happened with Jody, I actually had an as expected feeling. Seeing me silent for a moment, Fawn blinked innocently. I've been busy preparing for my show, so Sunday is the only day I can make time. If Jessie rejects me, I'll be very sad. After Fawn smiled and waved goodbye, returning to his own apartment, I finally came to my senses and realized I'd fallen for his pretty boy tactics. Damn it. I was fooled by that fake pitiful look of his, and mindlessly agreed to Sunday's date. What do I do now? Sunday is just one day, and I'm seeing two guys? Sunday, Jody and I met at a chic Thai restaurant, and when I opened the menu, I found the prices were just as chic. Just as I was about to order, Jody checked off items on the menu and handed it to the waiter. We'll start with these, thank you. Of course, please wait a moment. I asked. You know what I like to eat? Jody put on a disdainful expression like he'd been underestimated. We've grown up together. Who could know you better than me? He had always been cheerful, and now his face showed no trace of that day's disappointment. The hint of smugness in his tone was rather childish, making me hold back a laugh. Seeing me smile, Jody also turned up the corners of his mouth, utterly bold and unrestrained. What did you want to tell me? I asked. He wagged one finger, drawling. Who talks business before eating? We can talk after you've enjoyed your meal. I nodded. Maybe after we talk, one of us won't have the appetite to eat anymore. I'm going to the restroom first. I walked out of the bathroom wiping my hands, looking for our original table. Jessie. A familiar voice sounded behind me and I froze. Turning slowly, I saw Fawn standing behind me, dressed more flamboyantly than usual, looking even more like a peacock. He didn't notice anything wrong with me and came closer, his clear voice tinged with gentleness. I just sent you the location, and you're already here. My pupils shook. Weren't we supposed to meet for a movie? Why is he here too? I must have missed Fawn's message because I had too many pinned group chats. While I was in a daze, he naturally pulled me to sit at a corner table. Fawn. I tried to explain that I was here with someone else, but since he was already here, wouldn't saying that be too hurtful? Just then, a waiter came over to hand us menus. I met the waiter's eyes, and my expression instantly froze. He also looked surprised, as if saying, weren't you sitting at a different table just now with a different guy? Help. I hid my face behind the menu, with embarrassment and shame intertwining in my heart. What would you like to eat? Fawn asked. Oh, anything is fine. I silently prayed. Hurry up and order so this waiter can leave. After Fawn ordered a few dishes, The waiter gave him a complicated look. Very good, please. Both of you wait a moment. Buzz buzz. My phone vibrated. I checked and sure enough it was Jody. Dog. Did you fall into the toilet? I secretly typed under the table. Having some constipation issues, go ahead and eat without me. Dog. That sounds weird. Dog. Fine. Who are you texting? Fawn asked with narrowed eyes, his tone sickeningly sweet. My body trembled slightly, and I instinctively sat up straight like I was in class, forcing a laugh. I need to use the bathroom. Then I took my phone and returned to Jody's table. He put down his phone and raised his eyebrows at me. Aren't your legs numb after all that time? Ha ha ha, not really. I said with a fake smile. Let's eat quickly and leave. A classmate suddenly needs me for something. You have plans on Sunday? His tone was displeased. In my mind I thought, yeah, the same kind of plans like you. But outwardly I smiled. Yeah, I don't know why either. The waiter soon brought the food. Yes, the same waiter. This time he maintained excellent control of his expression, calmly saying, enjoy your meal. Thank you. Knowing someone else was waiting for me, I immediately focused on eating as quickly as possible. Hey, is there any need to rush like that? Are you that eager to hear what comes next? Jody laughed. I didn't really hear what he was saying, just nodded randomly. A soft laugh escaped his lips. After I speedily finished a bowl of rice, I made up a lie about my lipstick fell in the bathroom. And as soon as I was out of Jody's sight, I ran back to Fawn's corner table. Sorry for the wait. I was a bit hot from running, my face flushed. It's okay. Fawn extended one clean, slender hand with a tissue. I thanked him and was about to take it when, to my surprise, he bypassed my hand and gently wiped the beads of sweat from my forehead himself. His eyes held a hint of amusement. I was momentarily stunned. Such a beautiful face really is especially captivating when it smiles. Jessie. A deep voice called out. My entire body instantly froze, my heart nearly stopping from shock. Didn't you say you left something behind? Did you leave it at someone else's table? Jody's tone carried a hint of sarcasm. Fawn's eyes shifted slightly before he smiled. Who's this? I was about to ask who you are. It's not very appropriate to be so intimate with someone else's date, Jody responded. Date? Fawn rested his chin on his hand, giving Jody a challenging look. Seems like a certain girl is quite popular, huh? Jody understood his meaning, and they both turned to look at me. I lowered my head guiltily. I can explain. So you wanted to speed date both of us in a single day? After hearing my explanation, Jody crossed his arms and looked down at me. I nodded vigorously. I had no idea you both chose the same restaurant. I just wanted to quickly resolve this completely unexpected situation. I absolutely wasn't trying to play you guys. Jody's expression remained calm as he hit the nail on the head. So you'll choose me, right? I shook my head. Jody's eyes immediately darkened. Why? He asked slowly. I need time to figure out if what I feel for you is attraction or simply friendship. Fawn glanced at Jody, still smiling gently, seemingly enjoying the scene. Don't rush. We haven't gone to see the movie yet. You've got quite a packed schedule today, Jody said through gritted teeth. I didn't want this either, just trying to get everything done quickly, I said, lowering my head guiltily. He let out a cold snort. Then I won't disturb you anymore. With that, he turned and left. I sighed again, feeling like I'd used up nearly all my sighs for the past few days. As we left the restaurant, we ran into that familiar waiter again. He admiringly gave me a thumbs up. Let's go, Fawn said. As he was about to turn, I grabbed the corner of his shirt. Let's skip the movie and just walk around the nearby park, I said quietly. Though he looked a bit confused, he still smiled and said okay. I kept my head down, focusing on not stepping on the cracks between the bricks. I began to think about how to phrase things to minimize the hurt. Jessie, you want to reject me, don't you? Fawn suddenly spoke up. I raised my head in surprise, my eyes saying, how did you know? He laughed softly. You're too easy to read. Everything you think is written all over your face. It's just rejection. I'll be a little sad, but it's not the end of the world. For some reason, I felt a strange chill down my spine, like being watched by something dangerous. I felt like I'd experienced this feeling before, but had completely ignored it. After all, you two grew up together. You must have a very deep bond, Fawn said, a dark shadow crossing his eyes while his face maintained a perfectly measured smile. He continued word by word. I figured that out a long time ago. I frowned. A long time ago? Of course, neither of you would remember me. Fawn gave a self-deprecating smile. But there's no need to remember now. A handkerchief suddenly covered my mouth and nose from behind, and after inhaling a pungent smell, I completely lost consciousness. In my hazy state, I heard children's laughter echoing in my mind. Jody and I were playing by the big tree in the courtyard. I glanced toward the house across the way, where a thin child stood silently hiding behind the window in a dark room. Who was it? No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't remember. My muse, now you'll belong only to me forever. Someone whispered in my ear.